hard look at the invisible walls we build around ourselves. Today, we're dissecting the traps of trust, specifically how mastering this concept called selective vulnerability can honestly completely change how you interact with the world. We're going to explore why we do what we do when it comes to opening up, how we, let's face it, often get it completely wrong, and most importantly, how we can do it better. To protect our peace while still actually building meaningful relationships. So tell me if this has ever happened to you. I want you to really think about it. You meet someone, say you're sitting alone in a crowded cafe, right? And within 30 minutes, you feel like you know their entire life story. I'm talking their childhood traumas, their financial struggles, and suddenly, you know exactly what their second cousin's dog ate for breakfast. It's kind of uncomfortable, right? I mean, you're literally just trying to drink your latte. But on the exact flip side of that coin, you probably also know someone who is a complete emotional fortress, just a totally closed book. No matter how long you've known them, you have absolutely zero idea what they truly feel or what keeps them up at night. And the truth is, most of us fluctuate wildly between these two extremes. And spoiler alert, neither of them is serving us well. This dynamic perfectly illustrates why both of these extremes fail us so miserably. Let's take oversharing, for instance. There's this dangerous misconception floating around in modern psychology that being vulnerable means, telling everyone everything. But actually, when you lay all your cards on the table way too early, you aren't being brave. You're actually just being reckless. In the world of social dynamics, information is leverage, period. Oversharing just gives manipulative people a direct roadmap on exactly how to hurt, control, or disrespect you. And because so many of us have been burned by this in the past, what do? We overcorrect. We jump straight to the other extreme, hyper-independence. We build these massive emotional walls and adopt this tough me-against-the-world mentality. But here's the catch. Human beings are literally wired for connection. So when you wear an unbreakable mask 24/7, you don't just keep the bad people out, you keep the good ones out too. You end up relatable to absolutely no one and, honestly, just deeply isolated. But luckily, there is this incredible psychological superpower. It's the perfect middle ground that protects your peace while still letting you build deeply authentic relationships. It's called selective vulnerability. Basically, it's the intentional balance between emotional openness and strict personal boundaries. It means you aren't terrified of your emotions or your flaws, you're completely willing to admit when you're wrong, and you can share your struggles. But, and this is a massive but, only with people who have actually earned the right to hear them. Think of your emotional life, your memories, and your deepest secrets like a beautiful house. If you just leave the front gate open and the front door wide ajar for any random stranger walking down the street to wander in, well, your house is going to get trashed. That's oversharing. But if you board up the windows, wrap the place in barbed wire, and refuse to let even your closest friends or family inside, you're just living in a prison. That's hyperindependence. Selective vulnerability, on the other hand, means you keep a locked door, but you have a very specific key. You and only you choose exactly who gets that key, and you dictate just how far inside the house they are allowed to go. So how do we actually apply this in daily life without getting hurt? Like, how do we figure out who gets the key? Well, it all starts with one core truth. Trust is not an all-or-nothing switch. Actually, scratch that. It's more like a staircase. And this brings us to the very first law of selective vulnerability. You absolutely have to test before you trust. When you meet someone new, you do not just hand them your deepest, darkest trauma on day one. No way. You have to make them climb the staircase. Let's walk through exactly how to safely test the waters with new connections using this sort of incremental share process. Step 1. You share a small, low-stakes vulnerability. For example, maybe you just admit a minor mistake you made at work that day. Or, you mention a small hobby you're slightly insecure about. Nothing huge. Then step 2, you just sit back and watch their reaction. Do they listen with empathy? Do they keep it private? Or do they dismiss it, laugh at you, or instantly run off and use it as gossip? Based entirely on that reaction, you move to step 3. If they pass the small test, boom, they earn the right to the next step of the staircase. They get a little further into the house. But if they fail, they don't get the key. It is a brilliant, foolproof way to protect yourself while remaining totally open to the right people. Now, this brings us to law number 2, which is all about knowing why you're sharing in the first place. You have to clearly distinguish between intimacy and sympathy. These two behaviors have very different motives and, as a result, two completely different outcomes. When your behavior is genuinely aimed at true intimacy, your motive is building a mutual connection. You're essentially trying to build a bridge between you and another person. And the result? Mutual respect. But if you're sharing a struggle just to get immediate pity, validation, or attention,
That's sympathy seeking. And when you do that, you are immediately putting yourself in a weak position, and people will subconsciously start to lose respect for you. Remember, true vulnerability is always about building a bridge, not just extracting pity.
And that leaves us perfectly into law number 3. Read the room. Context changes absolutely everything. I mean, being vulnerable in a professional setting requires entirely different boundaries than being vulnerable in your personal life. Let's say you're a leader. Being vulnerable at work doesn't mean venting about your disastrous dating life to your team by the water cooler. Instead, it means admitting when a new marketing strategy completely failed. It means having the humility to just look at your team and ask for help when you simply don't have the answer to a tough logistics problem. Doing this doesn't show emotional instability, it actually shows incredibly high emotional intelligence. It proves you're human, which, guess what, builds massive respect among your peers.
So, what happens when you master these laws? Well, a profound psychological shift takes place. You stop moving through life so defensively. You stop being terrified of people finding out you're imperfect, mainly because you've finally just accepted your own flaws. And at the exact same time, you let go of this desperate, exhausting need for everyone to accept you. Why? Because you now know exactly who deserves a place in your inner circle. You stop opening the door for everyone, and you finally stop building those massive walls against the world. It establishes this ultimate position of quiet, unshakable confidence.
Ultimately, mastering selective vulnerability sends one incredibly confident message to the world. I am human, I have struggles, and I am not perfect. But my story is valuable, and I choose who gets to read it. Just let that sink in for a second. That is true, authentic power right there. You have the ultimate power of selection over your own mind, your own space, and your own story. You don't have to hide, but you absolutely don't have to expose yourself to harm either. You are in full control of the key.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to take a serious inventory. Really ask yourself, who currently holds the key to your emotional house, and do they still deserve it? Look closely at who has access to your deepest thoughts and struggles. Have they actually climbed the staircase and passed the incremental tests, or did you maybe just leave the front door wide open by mistake? Set your boundaries, choose your inner circle wisely, and always remember, you hold the key.